Hello, Instagram family. I don't know what just happened. I was on and then I wasn't. Anyhow, tonight I'm really excited because we're going to have a conversation with Miss Maria Puig, who is my goddaughter, an amazing mother, an amazing woman, an amazing scholar who has had a couple of challenges, as it relates to one of her children and their health condition. And she's going to share with us candidly about her experience. And so I don't know what happened earlier, but that's okay. I'm going to, yes, awesome, awesome, awesome. Hello, Maria. Hello. It would happen that on your interview, I don't know what happened. I was trying to bring you in and I pressed the X by accident, but that's okay because now we could just go ahead and get started.
It's so
So
funny how you said channeling dance vibes because I feel like I'm channeling the '80s vibe right now.
ooh, and I'm loving it. I mean, and I don't know if you noticed, I had a wardrobe change from when we spoke earlier. So this week is Congenital Heart Disease Week, right? And it
Hmm.
so happens that it's also the weekend that we celebrate Valentine's Day. Well, some people celebrate it, or it's a day of, in Spanish, I love it how they say Dia de Amistad, like
Hmm.
day of friendship, day of love. So for me, it's always been about not just, if you partnered up and booed up, wonderful, celebrate that person, right? But it's also about celebrating friendships. I'm huge on that. I always
Hmm.
text my friends on Valentine's Day, giving them a lot of love. So I love that we didn't even plan this. I know you mentioned that this week was the week of you know, CHD and the awareness of it. And you said it was so funny because before I even introduced her and how I met her, Maria texted me and she said, "Oh, somebody should talk about CHD." And she's going to break down what CHD is in a minute on the week of such and such. So I didn't even know why she picked that week. And then I said, "Well, you should do it because you have personal experience with that." So she was like, okay, I guess so. Right.
I
So first,
know.
so Maria Puig, you met her sister a couple of weeks ago. So a little bit of history, but I'm not gonna do like what people used to do to me. That you'd be like so and so sister because I'm the youngest of seven, right? Maria Puig is her own woman in her own right. So when I met Maria, she was about 4 or 5 years old, and she
Hmm.
was clinging to her brother's leg, like literally, right? And I met her because I had a crush on her brother, and we eventually, I was 14 at the time. I think we dated for about a month. But I fell in love with her family. I fell in love with her. I fell in love with her sister. I fell in love with her parents. And so they couldn't get rid of me, right? And I couldn't
Hmm.
get rid of them. And the funny thing is, Maria, when I first met you, you used to give me a side eye. I told you that earlier today. And you used to just look at me like, who this young lady thinks she is? Who she thinks she is? And what does she think that she's doing with my brother, right? But then we got to know each other, and what I've always loved about you, Maria, is your tenacity, your perseverance, your deepness, your attention to detail, your ability to take a situation and think about it on so many different angles. And you've
Hmm.
just always been so deep. Like we can't even talk about a bag of chips without you like going to a whole nother level on the bag of chips, right? So that's Maria and who she is. So to introduce you formally, you're a single mother of three,
Hmm.
and you have a CHD warrior who is your oldest. And
Yes, ma'am.
your children motivated you to get your bachelor's degree. You have your master's degree in education, and your journey has been quite a fascinating journey. That in the
Hmm.
midst of so many different challenges and situations, you've persevered. And not only have you persevered, but you also helped other people in the process by sharing knowledge. And that's why you wanted someone to come on because she thought it was very important that we understand what CHD is and also understand its impact on children and its impact on the family. So I said a lot. So Maria, introduce yourself to everyone. Tell us a little bit about you, right?
Okay.
And then share with us what inspired you to want to bring this topic to the community.
Well, as Dr. Cindy has mentioned, we go back really far. I mean, she's seen me since, and I actually think it was 3, Cindy. Oh, I think it was 3, not 4. She's seen me grow up, essentially, and it wasn't more so she couldn't get rid of us. I didn't want to leave her side eventually. I am a mom, but before that, I was just the little sister, and before my oldest was even a twinkle in my eye, I was working on my bachelor's to go into publishing. I didn't go into publishing. I wound up, graduating college at Mount St. Vincent. I got pregnant with him after, like a year later, and then I became a mom. And I wasn't a teen mom per se because I was 23, but I was so brand new. I had so many nieces and nephews, but at that time, being a mom was just like something so far-fetched to me because I only focused on school and I wanted to find a career. So when I got pregnant with him, it's just like he sent my life down a whole new trajectory. And I don't regret that at all. I've been a mom, I've been a teacher, and now I'm a family worker. I took like a complete different change, and family worker is like social work. And it's so funny because my mentor, you work in social work. So I think everything is appropriate. It happens for a reason, And Jacob, his other 2 siblings wouldn't be here if he hadn't harassed me for 2 years asking for siblings. So, he has pushed me to do a lot of different things that I wouldn't have thought I was ever capable of. Like I went for my master's degree in teaching, and he was 3. He was in pre-K, and it was a lot of shuffling him to pre-K, staying up late at night while he was like in early intervention because he had a speech delay, he had a sensory delay. Jacob started talking, and then he regressed and he stopped speaking. He didn't fully speak until he was 4.
Wow.
So that took a lot. And when it comes to CHD, a lot of people, when you think about congenital heart disease, a lot of people think 1, men, 2, adults, 3 is that it's meaning like heart disease or heart attacks. They don't think about it being a birth defect or children and how they have to grow with it, or they're surviving it can like it just diminishes their lifespan. And it does. For some children, it does diminish their lifespan. Some children only get to grow up until 30. Some have to be on life support machines. So when Jacob was born, we didn't even know. I was a high-risk pregnancy for Jacob, because before that, this still kind of makes me tear up. I had abnormal cancer cells in my cervix. So I was 21 dealing with that. And after I survived all the treatments of that, my doctor, who I still to this day go to, my OB-GYN, I love her. She said it would be risky for me to have kids if I could ever carry. So if I could ever carry.
Wow. Look at God.
So when you're told that, and you had spent your life and your teenage years thinking, I'm not going to be a mom, I'm an aunt, I don't want to be a mom, I don't want to deal with that hassle. That one sentence in that one visit made me tear up coming home, and I cried. I cried on Mom's shoulder, and my mom was like, it'll happen if it meant to happen. And it hurt because you realize you had dreams that you didn't even realize. You didn't know about. It was so deep subconscious that I didn't know I wanted to be a mom. I didn't know I wanted that option until that option was almost taken away from me.
Wow.
So then, like, 2 to 3 years later, with his dad, I wound up getting pregnant, you know, and I was nervous because they said my chances of keeping the baby were like 10%. And it was a difficult pregnancy. It was high risk. For Jacob, I had 40 ultrasounds
Wow.
in 9 months. I had 40 ultrasounds. And in those 40 ultrasounds, they never once caught his abnormality. Never.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never sick during the pregnancy. I was healthy as a horse. I almost lost him due to severe dehydration, and I didn't even know I was dehydrated when I was 5 months pregnant with him.
Wow.
But other than that, I had a perfect pregnancy. I also have a bicornuate uterus, which is a heart-shaped uterus. It's where the uterus is split in half by a barrier. So that made me even more high risk, besides
Wow.
my past histories. So that made me high risk, and that's also another reason for all the ultrasounds. So they thought that I would go into early labor because with bicornuate uterus, sometimes it's difficult for you to carry to term.
I love
Most
that you're,
often,
hold on. I love that you're schooling us with all the technical terms, okay? I
yeah.
love that because I had no idea of all of these terms. And it's so important because as people of color, sometimes we are not aware of medical conditions that are
Mhm.
impacting our communities. So I appreciate that you're breaking it down. Thank you.
Yeah. And, I joke when people say, what's a bicornuate uterus? I say, basically, I have a heart-shaped uterus.
Mm,
There's different forms of bicornuate uterus. It's one that's a heart shape, one that your uterus is completely split into two different uteruses. So it's like, oh, okay. And then they're like, oh, wow, that's really, and my joke to make it light for other people, because other people, when it comes to medical conditions, they feel like it's such a drag. I just joke. I say, well, God thought I needed two hearts. So he gave me one up here, he gave me one there, and I have
oh,
abundance of
wow.
love. That's
Mm,
my joke to people. Oh no, I just have two hearts. you know. So Jacob was a normal pregnancy.
yeah.
Most times with CHD in children, the mother usually has like pregnancy diabetes. She'll have an infection. In very rare cases, the mom experiences rubella. And you can still experience rubella.
Really?
That's what I found out in this CHD journey. You can have a lot of infections or diseases that bring the CHD, like it changes. So before I could even hear his heartbeat was forming, and this genetic defect was forming already, and
Wow.
is rare. So what Jacob has, his CHD is tetralogy of Fallot of Fallot, as many people say. Go over there, Bubba.
Oh
My
my
little
goodness.
ones.
Hello, beauty. Oh, my, so cute.
Well, his
Yeah,
muted.
I know. So
That's muted.
So Jacob's heart, when it was forming, its electrical impulses
What?
are not normal. Go,
Mm,
baby. So they didn't catch it in all his anatomy scans. They really didn't.
wow.
So it wasn't until I was giving birth to him that when he came out, yes, Baba, is Rip. Can you go? Go, let
Look
mommy
at
finish
Iris.
talking.
Iris all in the mix. That's my baby. Yes, he is. That
yeah.
is yummy. He is so yummy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So Jacob turned blue after birth. My mom was in the delivery room with me, and so was his dad. My mom noticed it, and I didn't see it because I was, you have that nasty placenta coming out. Well, not nasty; it's normal, but it was coming out. But the thing was, while Jacob was turning blue, I was bleeding out.
Wow.
So I kind of drenched a lot of the floor in the delivery room. So
Mm,
that wasn't fun. And it was really hard after his birth to regulate my body heat.
wow.
So we were both kind of battling our own little battles.
Yes.
And they didn't tell me. The hospital didn't tell me he turned blue. They didn't tell me he was hooked up to oxygen. They didn't even tell me he wasn't in the nursery. They didn't tell me he was in NICU.
What?
Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people, when they hear this, they're like, you could have sued them. You could have done this and that, A, B, and C. And I'm thinking to myself, I was a new mom. I
Yeah.
was in pain. I was swollen. I was tired. I didn't, it never occurred to me. They didn't tell me until like 4 hours later. I had Jacob at 1:22 in the morning. It was like around 5 a.m. that I was like, I want to breastfeed because my path was, I'm going to breastfeed. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, where's my child? Like, do I have to walk to the nursery to get him? Where is he? They had me, rooming with another mom who just gave birth. And the nurses just kind of kept like, my mom had just left. Something told me, call your mom. So I grabbed my phone, before my iPhone, I had my BlackBerry. I grabbed
That's
my
right.
BlackBerry and I said, oh no. I called my mom. I was like, no, you need to turn around, come back to the hospital. They're not telling me something. They're not giving me Jacob. They're not telling me what's happening. They already took his Apgar scar. Where is my child? They don't want to tell me. I was ready to flip out. And as you know, you've seen me grow up. I look calm and collected, and I look, laid back most of the time. But when you hit my trigger from my temper, it snaps. And I was going to snap. I didn't care if I was bleeding. I didn't care about blowing out stitches. I was like, no, where is my child? So finally, they told me, oh, he's in the NICU. I said, but why is he in
Wow.
the
But
NICU?
this was after how many hours, Maria?
I gave birth to Jacob in 9.5 to 10 hours. I went into labor quickly, and Iris, his Nina, his titi Nina, she was driving me like a maniac. She was like, I gotta take a pregnant lady to give birth, and I'm like in the front seat, okay, calm down. She's like, no, look at you. I'm like, I'm breathing through the contractions, and it was funny because that day Iris was in the house with the kids. I was in bed sleeping. I was I was so chill. I was watching John Leguizamo the night before. I was listening to Mark Anthony that day. I was eating my crackers and my tuna. I was like, yeah. All of a sudden, I keep feeling this twinge in my back. I said, oh my God. I got up and I bent over and I was like, oh. I was like, and Hazel, God bless our baby in heaven, she said, Titi, are you okay? I said, no, Hazel. Where's Nana? She was like, she just kept looking at me and she said, is it time? I said, yes, Nunu, it's time. She was like, my baby's coming because Jacob
Oh,
wasn't
I
mine.
know.
Jacob was
No,
hers.
that's
I
right.
said, yeah, baby, he's coming, he's coming. So Iris comes running out my mom's room screaming, oh my God, it's time, it's time. I'm like, oh my God, calm down. The doctor said that I need to just take a hot shower and relax before I even think about going to the hospital. My water hasn't broken. I'm just feeling intense back pain. She was like, no, you can't take a shower. I was like, I'm going to take a shower. I literally had a 5-minute argument with Iris. I was like, no, I'm taking a shower.
About
I'm
taking
going to
a
take a
shower.
shower. And the joke my mom said, oh my God, you haven't brushed your hair's, I'm like, yo, really? Like,
Oh
I
my
don't care.
God.
I'm in pain. And then the cutest thing, Solomon comes out. He says, Titi, I got your go bag. I got you, Titi. And I'm like, okay.
Your
And these
family,
are,
your family is so amazing. They're incredible.
yeah.
And they had your back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love how you talk about your family because there are people out there that sometimes we don't appreciate what we have right in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
the baby, Solomon, Hazel,
Mm-hmm.
Iris, not letting you take a shower. Your mother wanted to make sure you was looking like a diva before you walked out the door. I mean,
Yeah.
all that love, Maria, all that love. Wow.
Yeah. And when the funny thing is, to sidetrack, Jacob was loved before he was even
Yeah.
conceived. Because my mom said one Christmas, oh, I'm buying this, the little teddy bear. I forgot what it's called. The one that you put the stories in and he reads them to
Oh,
you.
yeah. Yeah, I forgot that. It was like
She
the
said,
bear, right?
Yeah, she said, I'm buying this. And I was like, for who? She was like, for your kid. I was like, oh, no, no, I'm not having kids. She was like, no, no, I'm going to buy a one Christmas gift every year for your children so that if the day comes, I'm not around, you finally decide to have a kid, they have gifts from their Nana. That was mom. That was mom. I feel like she put it out in the universe. I want a baby. I want one from Maria.
That's right,
Teddy
Teddy
Ruxpin.
Ruxpin.
There we go.
You
Winston
know
for
what?
the
In the
win.
zone,
Winston
in
for
the
the win.
zone came through. Teddy Ruxpin. Thank you.
Padrino for the win. So yeah, so Jacob was loved before he was even born. I mean, look at this one. I can't with him. He loves stealing the spotlight.
It's all good.
Nunu throughout the pregnancy, that was her baby. That was my baby. And he would move on cue for her.
Wow.
She would talk to him and he would start kicking her and he would quiet down when she was whispering to my belly. And I miss those days because
Wow.
that was a love that was the
Yeah.
purest for him.
Mm.
So
So
I
you're
later
in the
found out,
hospital. You finally find out that he's in the
yeah,
NICU because
hmm
your mother came in.
go there. Yeah, go.
Your
My
mother.
mom came in and she started creating a ruckus like,
That's
what
right.
you mean? Where's my grandson? Why can't my daughter have her son? What's happening? So they actually took her first. They took her first to the NICU to see him
Wow.
and his dad. And when they came in to get me, they tried preparing me the best. Because, hormones are going crazy after birth, all this stuff. I was like, just take me to him. Just take me to him. He had his little eyes shut with tape. He had oxygen tubes. He
Wow.
couldn't move. And this
Mm.
is a 7-pound baby. And he was born at 39 weeks, which is normal. I
Mm.
carried to full term. I had a vaginal delivery. I was very quiet during labor. The nurses was like, wow, she doesn't curse us out. She's very quiet. So it was a shock to see him like that.
Mm.
I would see him like that for 2 whole weeks after birth.
Wow.
And that first day of his life, he was in NICU. And then they moved him to Montefiore. I was lucky enough that the nurse allowed me to be moved through the underground tunnel between North Central to Montefiore Children's Hospital on Bainbridge to
Really?
go with him. That's against hospital rules. But she took it upon herself to wheel me over to sign papers and be with him for at least 30 minutes in Monty.
I just got chills
Yeah.
because the
So,
way, and I know that your family is a believing family.
mhm.
Believing in how God just keeps showing up and showing out. And
Yeah.
that's like a perfect example. I mean, you were going under the tunnel. Were you in a wheelchair? I mean, how were you physically
Mhm.
at that time?
I was in a wheelchair.
Mm.
Because they didn't want me to walk, and sometimes it's like what I say is probably to cover their asses, but they wheeled me over, and I managed to sign some of the transferring papers and see him, and briefly spoke to one of the doctors, and I actually met his cardiologist that he still has to this day, and she's
Mm.
actually the chief of cardiology, and I love her.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah,
She.
so
I like how you
she
say she.
she she is one on the top of her field. She is innovative when it comes to tetralogy of Fallot. She is the best. Her name is so toted with honor. It's a blessing that we got her first.
Wow.
And it's funny because I didn't know until Jacob was being treated by her. She actually treated my cousin who had the same heart condition as Jacob.
Wow.
So it was just like, wow. I was like, oh, wow. Like, you have my cousin who is my age. I think Grandma was a little bit younger than me. But
Yeah.
yeah. So it's hard. And I still have memories of seeing him tied up to tubes. And I was separated from him for 3 days. They kept me in North Central for 3 days. I asked the nurses, could there be any way that I could discharge myself to be able to go to him? They said
Wow.
no. They
Because
even put me.
you were still recuperating, and they were worried about
Hmm.
your health and wellness.
Yeah,
And
and
that's
they
why,
even
um,
yeah, they even put me in my own solo room when North Central is not known for giving patients, mothers, solo rooms. You share a room. But they put me in a solo room next to the nursing station. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't understand why they did that, but they did it again to cover their asses. They did it to cover their asses and to watch me to make sure I didn't do anything drastic. I mean, I kind of get it now on the flip side because as a young mom and your child is not with you, I think it would put you more at risk for postpartum.
absolutely. And I
How
was
I
just
didn't
about to
develop
get to
that,
that.
yeah, how I didn't develop postpartum, I have no idea. I think it was by the grace of God and knowing that I had two women over in the hospital with him.
No, not
Because
two women,
Iris,
two warriors.
yeah.
Let's be clear.
So Iris
Let's be
and
clear.
mom, they took shifts staying with Jacob. They took shifts staying with him, holding him whenever they could, when being tubed up allowed them to. And they would give me reports. They would text me. They were like, hey, we're here with him. He's doing fine. All this stuff. And it was actually Iris who told the nurses, because they put baby boy Puig as his name. They put like a sign over his crib, baby boy Puig, and it had little angel wings and little clouds and stuff. And my sister was like, no, his name is Jacob. So the nurse went and changed it and she wrote baby Jacob.
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's
So
right.
it
You
was.
know what I love about your story is the relationship that you have with your sister. Like, I've been able to witness it firsthand from when y'all were very little. I mean, y'all always have had each other's back. Y'all have had moments where you fight, when you bicker with
Mm-hmm.
each other, but the love is so magnetic, infectious. The way y'all treat each other's children as if they're your own has
Mm-hmm.
been like such a blessing to see, Maria. And
Yeah.
I wonder, what were you thinking those 3 days that you couldn't see your beautiful Jacob baby boy that you had just given birth to? What was going through your mind? Like, walk us through. They tell you your son has a heart condition. They're trying to explain it to you while you just gave birth and you yourself are recuperating. What were you
Mm-hmm.
going through? Like, what were the thoughts that you had in your mind?
I was, to be honest, I was in disbelief. I was like, this is not ideal for me. This is not how I imagined entering motherhood. This is not like who goes through this. I was like, really? Like, and you know the saying everybody totes, they say, God only gives you what you can handle. So if God gives you a curveball, he thinks you can handle it. He knows you can handle it. And I was sitting there, I was like, God, I know you're saying I can handle it, but I don't want to handle this. Because all I could think was not about myself. I kept thinking about him. Is he going to survive this? What is he going to need? Is he going to grow up? Is he going to be able to achieve whatever he has to achieve? And I just kept thinking, am I going to be able to hold my baby?
Wow.
Am I going to be able to hold him and love him and let him know my voice is here? I'm with you. And it was difficult knowing his first sounds were machines beeping. He wasn't hearing my voice. He was hearing strangers' voices. And even though he had my mom and my sister, he didn't have me,
Yeah.
you know? And it was just like, I couldn't deal with it. It was a lot. And you even came and saw me in the hospital. And, you know, I was putting on a brave face for everybody because that's what I'm used to, being the baby sister. Like, I'm always considered the strong one of the family. And it was like, I want to break. I want to break. I want to break. I want to shatter. But like, I kept myself together, and it was really hard because you're a new mom. You just want to hold your kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't like. It was like, for this, I should have not gone into labor. I should have come to my belly. He would have been protected more.
Yeah.
So you have all those kind of like crazy thoughts, like, oh my God, I should have never given birth. I should have kept him in there. I should squeeze my legs together, like not pushed him out. Like, no. And the funny thing is, a lot of people assume, oh, you probably were complaining in your third trimester, you wanted him out. It was the opposite. Come the third trimester, I was like, no, I don't want to give birth. No, he could stay in there. No, no. It was summertime. I was hot. I was dying from the heat. I was big as a house. It was August. I was like, no, no, no. He could stay in there. He doesn't need to come out. He could stay in there. Like, no, I'll keep him in there. I'll walk around pregnant for the rest of my life. I don't care.
Wow. So this was a lot. I mean, I thank you for your vulnerability and sharing that authentic experience, because as a new mom, you have some ideas of what motherhood is supposed to look like right after the birth.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't imagine that it would have taken the road that it took, right?
Mm-hmm.
So share with us when you finally were able to see him, when the doctors explained to you what was happening to him. Did you understand it right away? Were they able to explain it thoroughly in a way that you could understand?
Well, at first, the funny thing is, most of the doctors that first came in, when I finally was able to join Jacob in his hospital room, this is going to sound sexist. They were male. The attendings were male. So they tend to hem and haw and, oh, I don't think she's strong enough to hear this, let me speak to the dad instead. And it was just like, no, you can speak to me. I'm his mom. We're not married. And that frustrated a lot of male doctors on the floor. Like, really? I'm like, no, we're not legally married. And not for nothing, you can talk to me because I'm right here. I need to know what's happening. I need to sign off. And I kind of came out like a snotty brat to them because I said, the signature that's going on all his paperwork is mine. So you can tell me.
It sounded like you did such a great job of asserting yourself as his mother, as a primary caregiver. And I know that for women that give birth in that way, where the father's present, but it's not a marriage situation, sometimes you're not sure how to engage and assert your role. And I want to commend you for doing that. And I know it wasn't easy.
It really wasn't, because, the relationship was taking a lot of hits at that time. So I also had that on my plate. Yeah. And Jacob, and this wasn't his fault, Jacob being born with a CHD kind of made our relationship take a big hit. Yeah. But when they started breaking it down for me, I said, okay. They gave me some paperwork to read. I looked it up online. And I don't go for .com. I look for .edus. I look for .orgs.
Come on,
I go for NIM. I went to all the medical documents, all the medical websites. I was like, okay, I'm going to read up on this. I looked at diagrams. I said, oh, okay, this is TOF. Okay, so this is what's happening to his heart. Oh, okay. I watched videos. I was sitting there in the hospital, so I was like, I have nothing to do. I can barely move. I was like, I'm going to read up on this. And I read up on it. I educated myself because I was like, if the doctors won't sit there and tell me because I feel like they think I'm just a young woman, a first-time mom, I'm going to educate myself. So I was reading everything. I was literally absorbing things. And you know me, I love school. So it was just like, oh, it's another science course. I hate science, but I'm going to learn this stuff because it's my kid. Excellent. So the thing is, I call myself Jacob's champion, Jacob's advocate.
Yes.
I needed to be his voice. He couldn't speak. I was going to speak. And for me, I hate blood. I hate seeing blood. I hate seeing blood come out the body. It's like blood belongs in your body. Seeing his blood come out, he had blood transfusions. I was just like, I can't do this. But I stomached it, and I kept watching him. So that's what I did. And And it wasn't just the male doctors. It was sometimes the female residents
Wow.
that they kind of was like, well, I'm the medical professional. I know what I'm doing. Da, 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 da. I was like, really? You know what you're doing? One, squeeze Jacob's foot so hard to put an IV in his foot. His foot turned blue.
Wow.
I lost my shit.
That's right.
I started yelling. One of the nurses already known me. They were used to my face because I lived in that hospital with him. I lived and breathed. I did not exit that hospital.
That's right.
The nurse came and I said, I want someone else. I want someone else to take his blood. I don't want this resident doing it. No. I was like, and I also want his fetal monitor, someone to come check his foot to make sure his circulation is okay because his foot turned completely purple blue. And I wasn't with it. I wasn't with it. I was like, are you kidding me? So let's just say those doctors, they were like, she's a handful. This mom is a handful. And
Now,
all
do
I
you
could
think,
think for
Maria, let me
myself,
ask you a question. Do you think if you were in a different community, you would have been treated that way?
I think had I not been a minority, had I not had such a Spanish last name, this is Puig, had Jacob not had an extra Spanish name, which is Mojica, I don't think we would have hit those many roadblocks.
Wow.
I mean, come on. One of the questions they asked during his first 2 weeks in the hospital was if his father and I interbreeded. They asked if we were cousins.
What?
Yes. Yes. They asked if we were blood related.
Wow. Wow.
I felt like the audacity. The audacity. I was like, are you kidding me? No, we are not related. I was like, really? You want to know our dating history? I searched because sometimes in PR you can have family ties
Right.
and not know it. When he said he was from Fajardo, his family was from Fajardo, I did my research. I asked my cousin, do we have any blah blah blahs? I asked him all his Spanish last names in his family. I did my research.
But the fact that you even had to go there, like this was North Central Hospital or this was Montefiore?
This was Monty. This was Montefiore.
Someone wanted to know what hospital it was. So,
It's Monty.
Maria, I just want to take a moment and first of all acknowledge you again because not only had you just given birth, despite your personal medical history and healing, but then you give birth to a child with congenital heart disease. And could you tell me the name again of the exact specificity of it?
Tetralogy of Fallot, or some other people call it tetralogy of Fallot.
Excellent. And that you could even say that, right? And explain it is amazing. And then you had to deal with the complications of the care of your wonderful little baby boy that you couldn't see for 3 days. So you had to deal with the trauma of giving birth because everybody's body, when you give birth, it's already a trauma. But there was a trauma that you already had a pre-existing health condition, the trauma of giving birth, the trauma of your son being taken away and you not being informed of what was happening to your son until you advocate and got your mom and your family to advocate. Then you had to deal with now being with your son as he's getting care and dealing with inequitable medical services. And having to advocate for appropriate medical services for your son.
And it's not to say that everybody on his team was like that. No, most of his team to this day, I still pray for. I still love them. Excellent. One of his main surgeons retired when Jacob was 6. And I was just like, oh, when I got that newsletter, I was like, oh, he retired. He deserves it because that man healed my son. And even though Jacob is facing eventually another surgery, which is not what many people don't understand, I loved his team. I don't want anybody to think I'm disparaging his health team that works on him. No, I love them, especially the nurses. I think nurses carry the brunt of medical care for the patients. I love those nurses. So much so that I would still drop by with apples or oranges a year after he left. So it was hard,
That's amazing to hear. That's amazing to hear that your services. So tell us, how many surgeries has he had to date?
To date, Jacob has had 2 heart procedures.
Wow.
When he was first born, he less than a week after he was born, he had a balloon valve stenosis. That is where they put kind of like it's what is called a balloon into his pulmonary valve to help open it up. So what TOF is it has different varieties and severity. Jacob has his aortic lining. When you look at the heart, it's, you've seen the pictures of the heart. It's not that shaped heart. It's the real bloody heart. His aortic side has a very thick lining. Our lining is usually this thin. His lining is this thick.
Wow.
Which means his heart is abnormally large on one side. So his heart is kind of like this big on one side and it's heavy. So the aortic side pushes on the pulmonary side. As everybody knows, we have 4 chambers. 2 chambers work to oxygenate our blood. And then once they get oxygenated, the blood enters to get oxygenated on one side of the heart. And then it will circulate back down to exit through the other side with oxygen. Jacob's heart is electrical impulses don't read correctly, so his blood doesn't fully come out with the oxygen. It comes back in with oxygen.
Wow.
So his heart is reading electrical impulses differently. It's going heavy on one side on the aortic lining. And it was just like, okay. And he was at risk for turning blue. Cyanosis. He experienced a few minutes of cyanosis at birth where his brain didn't receive oxygen. And that comes into play later on in his life with his delays. And it was a lot. So they put in the pulmonary valve stenosis. After 2 weeks in the hospital, they say you could take him home. We hope that the pulmonary valve stenosis is going to hold up until he's 6 or 9 months, and then he's going to need an artificial valve. I said, okay, that's fine. I have 6 to 9 months to get used to this idea. I said, I'm going to pump this kid full of breast milk, all the antioxidants I could give him from my body. Right. I was ready. I was on a mission. I was like, okay, I can do this. Right. Yes. I had 2 glorious months being his mom. I had 2 glorious months where he would sleep on my chest. I was in love with this child. I mean, I'm still in love with him now. But Jacob coming home, it was like, I loved it. I loved hearing him. And the funny thing is, he was a quiet baby. He didn't cry. He didn't fuss too much. He'd go, when he was hungry. And that's it. That's it. It was like, oh, okay, you hungry? Oh, mama got you. So we did a combination of breast milk and formula because since he had been in the hospital separated from me, I couldn't get my breast milk to him on time. But I did pump. So it was Halloween weekend. Iris was in the house with the kids. I tell you, Iris pops up everywhere.
Everywhere. Look at her. She's all up in here. He's extra special, our Iron Man. That's right.
Yes, he is. So the day after Halloween, it was November 1st, All Saints Day. It was really early in the morning. It was like his 6 a.m. bottle feeding. He hit his bottle out. And I was like, Jacob, baby, you gotta eat. I was like, no, come on. I wet his mouth with the formula. I was like, come on, baby. It's not time for mommy to give you breast. It's formula, the supplement. He hit it again. I was like, something's not right. So I looked at him more clearly, put on my glasses because I'm blind as a bat. His color was off.
Oh, wow.
I started freaking out. I said, his color's off. His color's off. Oh, my God. My house, my apartment at the time, I lived in Yonkers. It was shadowy. It was the back of a building. I didn't get natural sunlight in, so I'm running around the house with him. I'm screaming to mom, "Mom, I think he's blue. I think he's blue." So we're looking for the best lighting, and then when we finally got it, lo and behold, Jacob was blue. Mom said, "You gonna call the ambulance?" I said, "No, I'm not waiting for an ambulance because then they're gonna try to take me to a Yonkers hospital. No, I'm going to Monty, going to Dr. Sue." I called Dr. Sue. I called her assistant. I said, "He turned blue." They were like, "What?" "No." I said, "He turned blue. He's blue." I'm massaging his chest to get oxygen into him. I'm giving him like CPR to get him oxygen because I was not gonna have a repeat of his diagnosis. They were like, "Okay, get here to the ER. Once you get into the ER, we're going to have them automatically admit you and you're coming up." I said, "Okay, bet." I started notifying everybody who I had to notify. I tell you now, without a bra. I just had a big shirt. I put on a hoodie.
Right?
I had dirty, I put on dirty pajama pants from I don't know when. I know they had like a ton of spit up on them. I didn't care. I went without socks in my sneakers. My hair was in a top bun, all messy. I said, "No, I'm going." I grabbed all his paperwork. I grabbed all his medical cards. I said, "I'm going." I got in the cab. And the cab driver was like, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "Take me as fast as you can to Montevideo Children's Hospital on Bainbridge." He was like, "Oh." And then he turned around and saw Jacob. He said, "Oh, él es azul." I said, "Claro que sí, porque tiene un malito corazón. Yo necesito irme para el hospital ahora." I tell you, Cindy, that cab driver started speeding.
Wow.
He said, "I don't care if I'm getting a ticket. I'm speeding. I'm taking you and your son to that hospital." I said, "Thank you." We got to the hospital. They saw my face. They took me to the ER. They did his intake papers. Less than an hour, we were wheeled up to his private room. And then Jacob, after one night of observation, he had his SP valve repair.
Wow.
He was only 2 months. He was just turning 2 months. And SP valve repair is open heart surgery. It is full on open heart surgery. So the pulmonary valve balloon that they thought would hold him until he was 6 or 9 months, where he would be able to grow and get strength and his immune system would be a little bit more healthier, that day never came. 2 months. 2 months. He turned blue. The pulmonary valve stenosis just collapsed. So they said, "You did quick thinking, massaging his chest, giving him oxygen from your mouth." They were like, "We're surprised." I was like, "I don't even know," because I didn't read anything about doing that kind of stuff. I just instinct. I just like, "No, let me massage his chest. Let me give him some oxygen. I don't know what I'm doing. It has to be beneficial somehow. I don't know." And in my head, I was like, "What's the worst that can happen? I'm massaging his chest to help his heart." So
But you bring up a very important point here. And it's so funny that the title of today's talk is From the Heart. Because you literally parent from the heart. And you allowed your inner knowing to take over. Like my arms the hairs on my arms are standing up. Because when you say, "I don't know," you did know. Just like you knew to call your mother, just like you knew to go to the hospital, just like you knew don't call 911, get your butt in the cab, just like you knew to grab his papers. Like, so we always get an inner knowing. And what happens sometimes, unfortunately, is sometimes we don't listen to that inner knowing. But I want to acknowledge you because from the moment we started talking, you've talked about this inner knowing. And having known you since you were 3 years old, I've always known that you were just so special because you've always had that inner knowing. Like we think about, like Iris talked about how we used to write out our goals and do vision boards back in the day. I remember, and I might cry, I remember reading yours a few years ago. and you said in that paperwork that you were going to get your bachelor's and that you were going to get your master's. And I remember I was cleaning out, like I told your sister, and I took a picture and I sent it to y'all. And so there's this inner knowing that you have, Maria, that my invitation and my hope is that in the same way that you used it for Jacob, and how old is Jacob now?
Jacob's 10.
Jacob is
Jacob's
10 years
10.
old, a
He's
cutest
10.
little handsome thing, almost taller than your mother.
Oh, yeah. And I think by the end of the year, he might be my height.
Right?
To be honest, I think before he hits 15, he's gonna be taller than me. I already have a feeling. He is tall. He's very active. He's fast, and he's smart like a whip, especially in math and science, which I know he doesn't get from me because I'm English and history. But his doctors will tell you he's excelled all their expectations for him.
Oh.
They thought he would be too skinny. They thought he would be smaller. No, this kid, he is our Iron Man. You know, we joke that that's his nickname in the family, but he is our Iron Man.
He is your Iron Man. And you are his biggest advocate, a warrior mom. And I love how life has taken you into these distinct paths, and you have been open to the possibility of the shifts. I'm not putting your business on blast, but we had a conversation about 6 months ago, and you said some things in that conversation that you didn't even realize how much you were pouring into my spirit. Because listening to you was like listening to where I was in my life maybe about 10 years ago. And to hear your resilience, to hear your tenacity about where your life was headed for you and your boys, and how you were allowing God to order your steps, was for me like the biggest gift that a godmother can get from a goddaughter. To know that you know how powerful you are.
And the thing is, I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel powerful. After, I feel like when it was just me and Jacob, I was so dynamic. I had this drive to live and to exist. And I'm not saying having Nikolai and Caleb kind of diminished that. But what I was going through outside of having them, I didn't realize was diminishing me.
Come on. Now I got to get a tissue, girl.
I always put those children first. And I'm going to put this out there. In between Nikolai and Caleb, I experienced the worst experience a woman can ever feel. And that is experiencing a miscarriage alone. I had my sister, and she was here in New York. I was all the way in Orlando when this happened. But I was in my doctor's office alone. And all I could think was, I'm losing Nikolai and Jacob's sibling. And I was a mess. And then, and all I could think was, Jacob, when he was 3, he asked me for 3 years, I want a sibling, mommy. And I would say, but you have siblings. You have your Titi Nina's kids. No, I want my own. I want my own person.
Yes.
So when I say Jacob made me the mom I am today, his persistence pushed me to do things I never thought I would do.
Come on.
That little boy is the reason I went to get my master's. He is the reason I did a 5-year program in 2 years.
Yes. I mean, I think I need to interview your mama next. Because we done met Iris. We met you and your mom, and I'm bringing her up because I was blessed and privileged to know the woman that she is, to see how she raised y'all. She poured life into me when I was trying to figure out where to go to college, going to college, coming to visit.
That was my fault.
And the way in which she has poured into y'all has been so phenomenal. She better, and I know she better get herself an Instagram so that we going, even if we go on your Instagram, we gonna interview her.
So yes, I had to say,
Oh,
like,
that's beautiful.
I take
That's
my
beautiful.
P's and Q's from her.
You
Growing
said
up,
good luck.
she was in every award ceremony, every school event, every school trip. I took what it is to be a mom from my mom. To say it, from when people say you're a dynamic mom, you're an advocate, I take it from her. This is a woman who was a religion teacher. This is a woman who was a pro-life advocate. But at the same time, she would never get on you if you decided to go for abortion. She would understand. This is a woman who was the focal point of Sacred Heart for so many years. But she still managed to be home, cook 3 meals a day for us, wipe our tears, wipe our boo-boos, everything. So I think my resilience comes from mom. Like, honestly, she put that
You better
foundation in
tell it.
me.
Is she listening?
No, she's
When I
putting
put it
Caleb
on
to
YouTube,
sleep.
make sure she listens to this because we need to give people their flowers while they're still alive. That's important.
Yeah.
So at this time, I want to open it up for any questions that anybody might have. Please put it in the question box. Maria, I mean, I knew that this was going to be powerful. But I didn't even imagine. There's so many facets of your story that I didn't even know. That I've always admired you and the woman that you are, but now you're just like on a whole nother level. And I can't wait to read your book. You and your sister need to set up an accountability time so y'all can start writing your books, okay?
Yeah.
So thank you so much. So please, anyone have any questions, put it in the question box or in the chat room. So Iris doesn't think that I could get your mom to come on an interview.
I don't know. We gotta see about that.
We'll see. I might have to do like an in-person situation because she might.
You would have to ambush her. Yes, you would. Yes, you would. Yes,
It
you
would have
would.
to be an ambush. Oh my gosh.
Yes, you
So,
would.
so we don't have anyone with any questions right now.
I
have a
Go get
question.
Jacob. Go get Jacob.
I'll do the cook to keep y'all focused. He's gonna cook so that y'all can be focused in your writing. I want to see that. That's dope. Thank you, Mr. In the Zone. So Maria, I have a question. So if you met a mom, right, that found out her newborn child has congenital heart disease and has the same type that Jacob has, and let's say the child is 2 years old, and the mom feels overwhelmed and feels like this is a situation that she can't bounce back from. What tools would you give to support that mom?
I would, first of all, I would give her an ear to listen to. I would tell her my journey, but at the same time, I would tell her my journey won't be the same as your journey. Everybody's journey is completely different. But not for 1 second, don't think that you can't assume this responsibility. You can. It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot of tears, a lot of nights where you stay up and you're like, where in my pregnancy did I go wrong? Did I not take enough prenatal vitamins? Did I not eat the right foods? Did I not exercise enough? Is my past coming to bite me on the ass? Because these are thoughts I had.
Wow.
Did I do something? Did I have like a major sin or something that I don't know that I did wrong and it affected him? In my belly, did I lose my temper? Did I have bad thoughts? And these are all perfectly reasonable questions and thoughts to have. And I would tell them, don't feel bad. Don't consider you sitting there thinking all these thoughts. It does not make you a bad mom. It does not make you a bad mom. It does not make you a bad person. It does not take away anything from you. Nor does it mean that you can't bond with your child. You are going to bond with your child. You are going to fight for that child. You are going to love that child. And it's a lot. It's a lot. But you find your inner strength. God wouldn't give you that child if he didn't think you were perfect for that child. That child wouldn't have been looking up from heaven and saying, I want her. Because like I tell Jacob, the joke with Jacob is I tell him, I think you were watching me from up above and you said, her. I want her. He chose me. I didn't choose him. I had no option. Once he was there, I fell in love.
Wow.
And what's funny is Jacob's name, I chose it because Jacob is the leader and the father of the Israel tribes. I picked his name from the Bible.
You better come
a lot
through.
Of people say, oh, you chose it because you were reading Twilight. No. Jacob is the leader. He is the father figure in the Old Testament. I chose Jacob for that. And it's funny because his dad picked Nathaniel. And Nathaniel is an immortal warrior in the Bible.
She said, enough said.
I was like, oh, okay. Mom found that out. One day she went to church to pray for Jacob before his surgery. And when she heard my senior trainer, may he rest in peace, give that homily about Nathaniel in the Bible, she knew Jacob.
Oh my gosh, that's Jacob right there.
This is Jacob.
Oh my
he wanted to come on and show himself.
Hey, Jacob.
The mouth.
So wonderful to see you.
This
I
is
love
my
you,
warrior. And this is what most people don't know.
I broke them by accident.
You look at kids and you don't know they're CHD warriors. You don't see visible scars. You don't see trauma. But if he was putting on his shirt, you will see his scar. And it's funny because our nickname for him, we didn't come up with. He came up with.
Oh, the Iron Man.
He was 5 years old. He noticed his scar in the mirror, and he was asking my mom about it. My mom said, no, I think this is a conversation you need to have with your mom. She brought him to me. I sat on the bed. He asked me, he said, Mommy, what is this? I said, I looked at my mom. I started crying because I thought I had maybe 6 years before this conversation. I said, oh my God, how am I going to explain this to him? I didn't practice. I wasn't ready for it. So I tried explaining to him. I said, you're very special. You have a really big heart with so much love, so much greatness to do that your body kind of can't absorb how big your heart is. And he just stood there quiet for a moment while I was looking for the words. And he was like, so Iron Man 3 had came out roughly around that time. Oh, something like Tony Stark. I looked at him. I said, come again? He said, you know, Mama, I have an arc reactor, but you can't see my arc reactor.
Wow.
5 years old. I said, yes. I looked at my mom. I said, oh my God, why didn't I think of this? His favorite superhero is Iron Man. Why didn't I think of this? Because, Tony has the arc reactor to take away the metal from the bomb explosion, from the shards from piercing his heart further. I didn't think of that. My little boy thought of that.
But he thought of that. Now, Courtney just asked, which is related to what you're talking about. He said, how does Jacob handle having this condition, and how aware is he of his diagnosis? So now he's 10 years old. So what does he think about what he's going through right now?
Jacob is very aware. I think on some level, he's always been aware. But now he understands it more. He's more present and focused in his annual cardiology appointments that he has to be seen every year for his checkup where he gets his echo. And he does beautifully. He stays still for his echoes. He knows, if he ever gets too overexerted for gym, he knows I have to stop. I have to breathe. If his heart is pumping too fast, he stops and he says, my heart is pumping too fast. It hurts. So Jacob's very aware. Sometimes I think he's a little bit too aware for my own liking. But that's the thing with raising children who have high IQs. they're self-aware.
No, and
Jacob's
you
so aware.
also have supported his social emotional intelligence and awareness. So that give yourself that credit as well, because the way you broke down how you responded to him at 5 years old, coming from a social worker, is phenomenal, right? So Courtney also asked, did the doctors ever try to persuade you for him to get a heart transplant? That's an interesting question.
Oddly enough, they never did. Jacob is now facing another surgery, which most kids with CHD do. They face multiple surgeries. So his is that he'll get an adult-sized valve replacement. I have asked the doctor, does she think a heart transplant would be better? She's still on the bench about it. She's, we're considering it, but hopefully it won't come to pass. As I said, Jacob has exceeded all their expectations. He's very active. He never really gets sick. This kid stays healthy. It's a miracle. Like, his immune system at first was very weak for the first 5 years of his life, and he would get sick often. We would have a lot of hospital stays because of fever. He would have to go into isolation.
Wow.
Until they figured out where the fever was coming from. He'd had a febrile seizure right in front of my eyes when he was 5.
Wow.
So we are still considering every option, but for right now, thank God, knock on wood, he's healthy, he's happy, and all I can do is just keep getting him to his appointments and keeping him healthy and happy. And honestly, this kid keeps me healthy and happy half the time.
Cause you look good, girl. 3 children. I mean, y'all don't see her whole self, but her body, mind, and spirit is on target. I love it. Maria, I love you so much. Not because you're my goddaughter and because I've known you since you were 3, but you have shared so much of yourself tonight that was so vulnerable, so authentic. And there's going to be someone that listens to this that may have a child with a health condition that is uncertain about how to navigate the medical world that could be so intimidating. And you give us hope of what it's like to ask questions, to interrogate, to inquire, because you have a right as someone who is taking part in the services of a hospital to ask questions. We don't have to just take what it is that they tell us. I love how you incorporated the efforts of your family, how you did your own personal research. You inquired and continue to seek the best things for your children. And therefore, you are seeking the best for you. Now, one last question before we close out. How is Maria taking care of Maria? Because you know I was going to go there. Tell me about your self-care practices.
I'm going to be honest. A lot of the times, I don't.
Okay.
When you are a single mom, much less a single mom of 3, it's hard. Yeah. Because, I work, and after work, I come home to check homework, to get them bathed, to do dinner time with them, to sit and eat with them, and then tuck them in, and then do any other work I need to do. And then on top of that, my crazy butt, for my job, my new career, I'm taking a college course credential.
Oh, yes, girl.
It's like, okay, I'm just going to add more to my plate. Yes, sirree. I'm just going to add it on. Yeah. And then, I sign up for webinars in my new career, for my new career race. And it's like, no, I want to learn as much as I can. And it's funny because my immediate supervisor today, she told me, don't forget that once that time hits and you clock out, put the phone down. Do not answer work emails. Excellent. Don't forget it's your time.
Excellent.
And I appreciated that from her because sometimes I do forget. Like, I'll see a work email and I'll respond to it because it's not like I'm not thinking I'm going to lose my job. But I love this new career so much. It's like, I want to respond quickly. So let them know, or let the parent know, hey, I got your back too. So here's your answer. But honestly, most of the time I'm in this is my sanctuary, my kitchen. I'm sitting here on my counter. I'm catching up. I'm binge watching my shows late at night.
Yes.
I'm not the healthiest of eaters when I'm alone. I will admit that. You know, Coca-Cola is my poison, my choice of poisons. Coffee. But every now and then I just take 5 minutes and I'll listen to a song, or I'll take an extra long shower or bubble bath. But honestly, my self-care most of the time is sitting down and having them climb all over me.
Yeah, I love that.
I mean,
I love that.
You can have the most exhausting day at work or the most exhausting day dealing with other people from your personal life. And my youngest will come and he does this new thing where he grabs your face with both hands. And then he just gives you a full-on kiss in the mouth. And it's like, all right, little foot, I see you. I'm accepting this love you're giving to me, as snotty and slobbery as it is. And then you have Nikolai, and Nikolai will sit there and say, I love you. But then his little fresh butt will be tap my little mommy belly, my kangaroo pouch, and say, I love your stomach too.
I love that you call it a kangaroo pouch.
Like, okay. You know, I joke with him. I was like, you gave me that pouch. He
right?
He goes, I know, mama. And he walks away. And then my self-care is listening to them. Listening to them laugh, listening to them have fun, and knowing that if I'm doing something right, I'm doing it for them. And plus, it also helps. It also helps that 10 years old and he still says I'm magic.
Oh, yes. And you are magic. Maria,
the best compliment.
You are magic. Your padrino says, tu padrino está tan orgulloso de ti. He's very proud of you. Says In the Zone Catering. Maria, thank you so much. I love you so much to the core. We got to do better about connecting more often. I know it's been a crazy year. And pandemic, doctorates, you know, raising children. We've been doing it all. So I love you so much. Those of you listening, you can listen to this on IGTV, and then it'll also be on the YouTube channel. And thank you so much. Where could people reach out to you? Where could they reach out to you if someone has a question?
You can DM me. I'm always willing to answer questions. And one more thing I want to input in there. If you ever find yourself a mom or a dad to a CHD warrior, you are kick-ass in my book. And let me tell you something. You will face a lot of people, and some people who might be related to that child, saying that they might be retarded, saying that they might be disabled. But know that your child has a greater calling in life than those labels. Those labels, you take them and you throw them out the window. Because I was thrown those labels with Jacob. And I took them and threw them out the window. Jacob has ADHD as a result of his CHD. Because it's not known, but congenital defects, they start developmental delays, they cause behavior delays, and they eventually might cause asthma, ADHD, especially in boys.
Wow.
So throw it all out the window, because your child is not the list of medical problems. Your child is your child. Your child is his personality, her personality. Your child is their heart.
Come on.
And their heart, it might be cracked, it might have the scar, but your child is yours. Yes. No one else's is yours. Yes. That child is yours.
Yes. Oh, Maria. You know I had to sing that one song before we head out. I love you so much. Thank you so much for the medicine that you have given to the community. Have a wonderful evening. Goodbye, boys.
We have another visitor.
I love you. Goodbye, boys.
This is my rainbow baby. Say bye, baby.
Goodness. Hi. He said, don't make me run around this living room. I'm trying to stay still, Courtney.
Put it down for me.
Oh, my goodness. That was a whole word. All right. Have a fabulous... Goodbye, Grandma. Grandma's hiding back there. I see you, Grandma. I love you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Good night.